I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, July the 9th, brought to you in part by Vitalix. Vitalix is committed to leading the way in how controlled, consistent nutrition is delivered to almost all species of livestock. Get the blue tub, visit Vitalix.com. You know, the big new term here on marketing, especially of fed cattle of late, is the AMAs, or alternative marketing agreements, and how some folks that have one of those are getting along so much better than the guys that are not. You know, and then we got some guys that are kind of in the middle, and they just decide to schedule and grid their cattle. Of course, their grid's likely not near as advantageous as those alternative marketing agreements that those guys have set up for long term. But you know, we may want to look at that, you know, coming up closer to the cow, and we're not seeing any of those AMAs for calves. Now, your big feeders, especially corporate feeders, they like to get their hands on the yearlings as quick as they can through forward contracting or something like that. And in fact, a lot of those corporate feeders, you know, they background a lot of their own cattle, especially down, you know, where I'm from in the Texas Panhandle and southwest Kansas and places like that, close to where they feed those cattle. They have went in and leased up jillions of acres of wheat from these big farmers, because you know, the farming is getting vertically integrated just like the cattle deal is, and so you have smaller farmers fall out and they sell to bigger farmers, and you got guys that just farm jillions and jillions of acres and plant wheat for grazing for the most part, and a lot of those big corporate yards have went in and leased all that up and turning cattle of their own out. They don't have the calves, but they can order by some lightweight cattle from central Texas or the southeast or something, and get in there and hire people to straighten those up and check them while they're on wheat, and then they've got those cattle kind of tied up, and then background them as yearlings, and then they've got their hands on them. But that's not really an AMA. But you know, maybe some of these calf producers, these calf people, want to look into trying to get in some kind of an AMA. I realized that back, you know, 25 years ago, when I was working for USDA out in eastern Pennsylvania Dutch country in Lancaster County, I remember when Smithfield come in and bought Moyer Pack, or Mopac, and Mopac was a good packer there. They put out competitive bids. They bought fat cattle at auctions. They bought them in the country out of those confinement feeding facilities out east there, and it was really a good deal. But when Smithfield come in there, they were used to the hog business, and they immediately put guys on the road trying to contract calves at weaning as quick as they could, because they weren't real thrilled about all the demand and the trading activity that they had to get involved with whenever they were trying to buy cattle. And so, you know, that's no secret. That's what the packers want to do. So maybe some of you cow-calf producers want to get into an alternative marketing agreement for your calves. I've heard some guys kind of talking about it, maybe tongue-in-cheek, but if you can promise your calves to some of these guys to background those calves, and they're going to want you to guarantee the quality on them, guarantee the performance on the cattle, guarantee the death loss on the cattle. They don't want you to use any hot shots or cussing at those calves, you know, before they get a hold of them. They don't want their feelings hurt or anything like that, and they want to be able to promise their customer down the line that these cattle were woke and they were raised under the very best conditions and weren't subject to any kind of politically incorrect things as they were getting grown. You know, you could guarantee everything about those calves and promise them to them there, and you'd have to come up with a base price on those calves, and you know, likely they'd want to you know, set up a base price and you know, one of your sorriest little old southeast one-at-a-time sale barns that only has 3 or 4 buyers, but on a typical week only 1 or 2 of them are really that active. So it's going to be kind of a basement bottom base price, kind of like what we've got now with the real small base price on the plainest end of cattle, and that's what we're going to start as. And then you can get a percentage of premiums, not the full premium. Of course, they're going to keep the bulk of that, but you could be subject to a percentage of a premium. But you know, we might want to get started on that, because these alternative marketing agreements are the way to go. And it's going to be like the emus and ostriches. If you guys don't get in on the ground floor, you don't get set up on one of these alternative marketing agreements on your calves whenever you get ready to sell them. Well, you know, in 10 or 15 years, whenever this integration is completely turned straight up vertical, and there's nobody there to buy the cattle to turn up to background them, you'll still have a way to get rid of them. You know, where other guys are just going to have to knock them in the head, I guess. But you know, I've talked to some cow-calf producers about that, and they're thinking at this time maybe not. They'd just rather take them to a sale barn or put them on a video auction where there's a lot of buyers in there bidding on the cattle, and there's a lot of price transparency, and you know, they like that demand, that back and forth demand, and having a second bidder that wanted those cattle just almost as bad as the guy that had the last bid. But that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but you can kind of look at the future and think, you know, that may be where we're going, guys. Maybe you want to get to looking into something like that. Let's talk about your board on Thursday. August live cattle futures down $1.32 at 119.27. It's really fallen out of bed. And I told you on the last visit, of course I talked a lot about it, how we're continuing to see a disparage between the northern feedlot areas and the southern feedlot areas. And nobody can make me believe it's not because the northern areas have more negotiated trade, and the packers don't have all of their needs met, so they got to get in there and bid on those cattle. But it grew even more on Thursday's trade as we started working through the week's negotiations. But a lot of your places in the northern plains, especially in Iowa, gained another $1 or maybe $2. And the southern plains lost another $1 or maybe $2. So you can't tell me it doesn't have something to do with the lack of negotiated trade in the southern plains, and the few guys that are still beating their head against the wall trying to get it done are really sucking hind tit. How about October live cattle futures down $1.25, 125.45. I'm kind of surprised to see this fat market fall out of bed, but whenever you can't get a decent price negotiating on them, then the board kind of fails because nobody has any confidence in the market. But a lot of your hedged feeders think, well, you know, that's okay. I'll just gain it on the basis if I can't gain it in the open market. And that's probably the second thing, besides the lack of negotiated trade. That's the second thing, basis jumpers, that's keeping us from being able to obtain a decent weekly price in your negotiated fed cattle arena there. But you know, when your August is down $1.30, it's a hell of a lot easier to pick up $1.30 on your hedge than it is to get another $1.50 or so from your packers that don't really need the cattle that bad, and they just you know, they got all their packer buyers out there, and they're just limiting them to just a few loads of cattle out there. It's a tough road to hoe, guys. Look at your back months on live cattle futures, down 87 to down 167. Feeder cattle are also down, probably sucked down from pressure from your live cattle pit, but August feeder cattle, right in the face of selling all these cattle in the cash market and your auctions and your videos and starting to trickle in some private treaty sales in the country, are all sharply higher. Your real-time index on Wednesday from just Tuesday's trade was up 866 based on an 800-pound steer, yet our feeder cattle futures are dropping. But August feeder cattle down $1.67 at 157.32. September down $1.50 at 160.02. Going your back months, your feeder cattle down 95 cents to down $1.37. Corn was down a little bit more, so you know, not sure where all this pressure's coming, other than just the lack of being able to obtain a decent price in your fed cattle arena. But new crop December corn down 7 1/4 cents, down big this week at 5.23 3/4 cents. Beans were down also after being up pretty big on Wednesday, but November new crop beans down 7 3/4 at 13.19 1/2. Your fat cattle trade, I mentioned a little bit of it, and it just kept going the way that we saw it go earlier in the week, with the northern plains gaining ground, southern plains losing ground. Iowa had confirmed sales on Thursday, 5,500 head, 16,600 head for the week, 124 to 127 on a live basis. We didn't see anything over 125 earlier in the week. Dress sales about steady from $1.96 to $2 a pound dressed. Nebraska had 5,500 head confirmed on Thursday, 17,600 head for the week so far. Live sales 123 to 125. Dress sales 196 to 202. Kansas, we were kind of disappointed because they were selling cattle at 120 on Wednesday instead of 122 or 124, which was feasible. But Kansas had 2,100 confirmed sales on Thursday, 17,800 head for the week. Thursday's live prices 118 to 119's all. Texas only 200 head. They weren't going to take any less than that, and there's not that many negotiated cattle to sell anyway. Just a couple of hundred head on Thursday. Just 7,500 head for the week. One price, $120 just on one string. Box beef cutout values continue to fall from their inflated levels. Choice cuts Thursday afternoon 281.97 down 293. Select 260.06 down 202. I want to talk about what's coming up next week. A lot of you guys know DV Auction is partnered up with Western Video Market, and we broadcast Western Video's sales over the internet, take the internet bids. They've got their big summer special coming next week, early in the week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. 3-day sale. Going to be offering 150,000 head of livestock, 137,000 head of cattle, and 12 or 13,000 head of lambs. I'm going to be coming to you from Reno, Nevada, back at the Silver Legacy, not at the Nugget this time, but back at Silver Legacy. And you want to get tuned in early on Monday. They start that thing at 7:15 Pacific, so that makes it a little bit easier for guys in the center part of the country. But I mean, they've got a lot of really, really good yearlings, and they're selling all the yearlings on Monday. And starting out early in the morning, they've got the yearlings towards the central part. Of course, they're basically western United States. But starting early on Monday, they've got a lot of Nebraska yearlings, got some Colorado grass yearlings, Wyoming, Montana, and then as they go through the day on the yearling day on Monday, they'll start working their way back west till they get into those Oregon and California yearlings. But be a lot of program cattle on there, a lot of big time consignments, long time reputation deals on there. You don't want to miss that Western sale. You'll want to go on to wvmcattle.com, or you can go to dvauction.com and just select the Western Video Auction. But going on through the week, on Tuesday, they're going to sell those summer and early fall delivery calves on Tuesday. And then they're going to sell the lambs last thing on Tuesday. But then on Wednesday, they're going to be selling those later fall delivery calves. So be sure and pay attention to Western Video Market's big video sale coming up Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this next week. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market on Thursday. Your real-time index on DV Auction late in the afternoon on Thursday at 153.64. It actually come down a little bit from those smoky specials like Bassett and Green City and the like that had their sales on Wednesday. So it backed off just a little bit. 153.64, that was off 54 cents. Your CME cash feeder cattle index, I told you it was going to be up big when it come out the next time, and it did gain quite a bit of ground, and the latest available is now up to 151.51, but it's got more ground to climb here. Let's talk about your sales on Thursday. Joplin Regional Stockyards, and I didn't have a Monday sale because of 4th of July. They weren't even sure they were going to have one last week when I was at the Big Bang sale at Quapaw, Oklahoma there, and then they just decided let's throw a Thursday sale. They just threw a sale together in really less than a week, had 5,200 head on there. Compared to the last Thursday special that they had, and that would have been towards the end of June on the 24th, it was $3 to $5 higher on the calves. Really some nice consignments on there, and a stick out deal that I saw was 77 head of 676 pound steers at $169. Wow. How about Mitchell, South Dakota? They had a big sale. 6,600 head Mitchell, South Dakota, called it as much as $7 higher. Look at this automated market report from Cattle Market Central here. Includes those cattle that went through the ring. About 600 head of your 8-weight steers averaged 841 at 154.26. Weighted average on all your 8-weight steers. Awful good, but they had a lot of big yearling heifers. You look at 1,140 head of 8-weight feeder heifers, averaged 862 with a weighted average price of 136.60. 668 head of the 9-weight heifers, averaged 936 and 134.38. Stickout deal that I saw from Mitchell on Thursday was 248 head of 803-pound thin condition steers at 168.75. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock, Salina, Kansas is back off their wheat harvest break there, and they had a really good sale on Thursday. 60 head of 928-pound steers, 928 guys in Salina, Kansas, bring 146.75. How about up in Billings Livestock Commission, Billings, Montana, 56 head of 728-pound steers, bring $166 in Billings. They're not just high in the central part of the country and the northern plains, guys. How about out east? Bluegrass Stockyard South, Stanford, Kentucky on Thursday. Called it, or I was looking at your yearlings compared to last week, and they had several loads of yearlings last week. They could have been as much as $10 higher just straight up there. But a stickout deal I saw out of Stanford, Kentucky was 58 head, 806-pound feeder steers, bring $154 standing in the ring out there in Kentucky. But the best quote that I saw anywhere come out of Valentine Livestock, Valentine, Nebraska. Lighter run than a lot of their specials, 2,850 head. But your Zach Tran top quote for the day come out of Valentine, 135 head, 812-pound all natural steers, bring $165. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.